I just want to add to that because those are our master's students, and we haven't had as much take up on that as we have hoped for. So we've had maybe 4 projects in total. We have 20 students coming in every year, and so, you know, for real, we have students who are very interested in doing this because people are, many of our students are actually very interested in rural areas, far more interested than you'd expect. And a lot of them are coming from international contexts where they're hoping to learn about rural community development here with the plan to be able to share that knowledge when they go, if they go back to another context elsewhere. So there's really interesting bridging opportunities as well to sort of to do that. So just to anyone who has those kinds of projects to take that kind of opportunity seriously.
I want to just mention the relationship between the Monieson Centre and Lockhart and Queen's University, and the fact that what we're looking at doing with our project is the restructuring of the forest industries of Eastern Ontario, and the through sustainable forestry and sustainable communities. And Queen's through well, the Monieson Centre originally, and through the Faculty of Law, and now in engineering and applied science, we have literally hundreds of Queen's students in the chemical engineering area, particularly working on projects that are directly related to the development of biochemicals and bioenergy from a woody biomass and agricultural biomass base. So it's a really excellent model of the engagement of students at the undergraduate level and also at the graduate level. I spoke with one last night who was here at Queen's with a foreign lady, and he and I were both right at supper time, and we were both, I was anxious to get to supper and he was anxious to talk. And but the point was, we want to see something real happen out of all this energy that is going into this work. And it's like the commercialization of really, really good ideas that need to be out there, responding to a market demand that we've identified through Queen's University. So it's a really, I think it's a great model of that interaction between a rural community and particularly engineering and applied science.
In the background,
If you move down the food chain a little bit to the public schools, there's a well-tried program that in other parts of the world has been shown to increase interest in future farming. It's called school gardens. Very effective.
I think that too often the connection between the universities and the communities rely on just personal people who have interest in research in the communities and make the links. But it is, I think, a part of what's needed is to increase the networks. I mean, you have graduate students going through the universities and get out in the community, and if the universities can work to keep in touch with those graduates, and once they get out in the communities, help to build that relationship. But there are some, and I think Toronto had quite a big program at one point that was kind of a service-based program that brought together communities and researchers. And Memorial University has a very strong service program or outreach program.
Yes, the Power Centre is particularly good at connecting students with the community. I don't want to, of course, advertise the Monieson Centre, but that's our mandate. We're supposed to be a bridge between the university community and your communities, rural communities. That's our whole modus operandi. That's why we exist. But there's a comment right behind Craig too.
Yeah, I just wanted to share part of the experience of what's happening in Alberta at the moment. I think public post-secondaries respond pretty effectively to financial incentives. So when there's money on the table, universities and colleges tend to go after. And so the Alberta government created a few years ago this fund, the Rural Alberta Development Fund. And interestingly, what they discovered was that almost all of the projects that were funded were projects that engaged a public post-secondary. And so when groups in rural parts of the province were seeking to be successful in getting that funding, they looked for partners who know how to get government funding. And so that kind of approach has been very successful in increasing the ties that have developed between public post-secondaries and rural communities. And then the 21 public post-secondaries, so that's all the universities, colleges, and technical institutes in the province, themselves formed a group to apply for some of this funding. And were successful in securing that, and consequently developed something called the Alberta Rural Development Network. It's actually the only network in the province in which all of the public post-secondaries collaborate. And it's on the topic of rural development. It's very early days in its development, but because of that structure, we're seeing a lot more activity in engaging the universities and colleges in rural development strategies.
Just a couple of examples of using technology related to this diaspora. Sometimes, back in the days of listservs, like late last century sometime, they were setting them up in, I guess it was the late 90s or whatever, to keep people in touch, especially young people when they were leaving their communities, with their communities. And the odd thing happened is that the older people who were in that wave of immigration to Alberta, they started to pick up on that as well. They were the ones who were quite interested in it, and it actually helped them build capacity and computer skills. But they would do things like if there was a local drive for a fire truck in a small community. I remember there was one in Ramya, 600 people lived there, and there was webcast, because it's easy to webcast stuff. And they raised $17,000 in a couple of hours. It was all from Alberta. You know, people were thinking, okay, I'll spend or whatever. So it wasn't just the youth who were caught in that notion of using technology to keep in touch with their home place. And the other example is a regional economic development board around Grossmore. And they got the address of all the youth who have graduated from the schools in the area. They didn't get it from the school board, by the way. The school boards are notoriously bad, that sort of thing. But they got it from the newspaper. And so they keep the email addresses, and every year, or a couple months a year, they'll send an email out to everybody and say, you know, there's a job in the garage in Hawke's Bay. Anybody want to come back, you know? And so it just kind of keeps them in touch, and it's not a high expenditure thing in terms of money and in terms of time, but it's using that technology just to keep reminding people of where they're from.
Can I add something to that? In the Grossmore area, Parks Canada has really jumped on this. I guess the best example is they're putting Wi-Fi before electricity in their campsites because they understand communities post stuff on their Facebook page and all the events. Lots of campers are getting that. So they have Wi-Fi campsite.
It's not just to ruin people's vacations, so they can't get away from it all anymore.
So much for camping.
This is just a personal interest to me. There's one about what can parents and schools do to nurture creativity on the creativity to nurture map. Anybody have any insights there?
I just say that creativity requires time, and it's something that many of us have lost, or we don't have enough of, and our children are not having enough time. So even our children are getting very, very programmed, and we're drumming out the creativity from very early days. So I just put that on the table.
So to suggest that another resource is Hippy Canada, HIPPY Canada. It's a program that's been around for a while, popular in other countries. But what they do is they particularly work with single-parent immigrant families to have the parents reading to the children, and then vice versa. But they would get involved in all sorts of, here's how you do stuff with puppets, and here's all the other artistic kind of stuff. So it has layers of impact, within the family unit and on the child. Website, just type in Hippy, HIPPY Canada, and they even have a how to start something like this in your own community manual.
In Muskoka, there's a collaborative that was formed called Creative Paths, and it's been